Today, we have a very special guest with us. In the New Girl universe, you know her as Nick's motorcycle riding, gunslinging girlfriend, Angie. She did 3 episodes with us in season 2, and she's been in countless films and shows since. Please welcome our beloved Olivia Munn
Hi.
to the show.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
This is so fun.
What's up?
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Y'all know what time it is. I want everybody to gather round now. Gather round. I like that. Yeah.
Yes. Listen around.
Mess around.
That.
Uh-huh.
Stand all day. Mess around. All night. Look at that.
Hey, messing around.
Hi. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Oh my gosh, thanks for
Would
having
you
me.
say that? Would you say that because of New Girl, your life is forever better? It's just been,
You know what?
it's just been better.
Yes, people still come up to me about the newsroom and New Girl. Those are the two. And you always tell the demographic. It's funny because now there's a whole new life to New Girl. And so a lot of like younger girls will be coming up talking to me about New Girl, which is like really sweet. They love it so much. You know, I'll tell you a big thing that was really impactful for me on New Girl was I was filming Aaron Sorkin's The Newsroom at the time on HBO, an hour-long drama. And then I go do The New Girl, which is comedy. And it took longer to tape like one episode of The New Girl than it did to tape an entire Newsroom episode. I was blown away. And then I realized this, that the show really happened mostly in the edit. Like that, that your show succeeded because, you know, we have all these talented actors, but this, whatever they did in the editing room, they really put the show together. I was really impressed by like this specific thing. When you're on set of New Girl, you have your script, your lines. And then when they get that down after 1 or 2 takes, they come in with pages of alternate lines. And they're just like, okay, now say this line. And then now if the line was, I don't know, good morning, they'd cut and then they go, okay, now say good afternoon. Okay, now say how you doing. Now say what's up. Now say, they just give you every version and so that way they can give you every opportunity to succeed or in the edit. And I thought, well, that's why it takes so long. Oh, yeah. But also it was great because, you know, everybody, when they had like their improv lines or they had thought of anything, everything could then be used in the edit if it worked. And so I think that's a big reason why it was so successful, in my opinion.
It's funny. I mean, we'll get to it as we go through this episode. Today we are recapping episode 212, Cabin. But when I was rewatching it, that moment where they show David Walton and Zoe and their characters being really, really like drunk and screwed up on absinthe. And she goes like, word games. And they just cut to him laughing. I was like, I bet you that took half a day to shoot of them just having her say it different ways with it being weird in her mouth. Or like when Jake has the grape.
Yeah.
He's trying to eat that grape. And I'm like, that must have taken forever. Just get weirder, go bigger, go smaller. Yeah. And then that's what they would have, all those choices. And then they kind of, you know, like there's an art to comedy.
Yeah.
And what you sit in and what you give space to and what is a quick, you know, cut into. And yeah, it took forever, especially in those early days of New Girl when they were trying to really figure out like the rhythm, the tone of this whole thing. So, and this episode I think is perfect for that because you guys were just literally locked in this cabin. So they had to have all those choices for the funny.
Yeah.
That was a story of my life in the beginning.
That's true.
Most of my notes were weirder, more girly.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean, man? You know, and those were my notes. You know what I mean? And so I would have to find different ways to get silly. And then you're right, you would get these alt packs with a million jokes. And but I will say, like you said, that was our saving grace on the show, because you know you had the best opportunities to be funny. And obviously it resonated with fans because here we go. We get cool people like you on the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. I will also say too, as an actor, I realized because in the moment, I remember when I was like new, like brand new on that show, and you were doing it over and over again. They're asking different ways. Like I was always in my head being like, I guess I'm not getting it. I guess I'm not getting it right because they just keep asking me for it differently.
Yeah.
And what you realize then when you watch the show, and now when we rewatch the show, is that no, they're like it's such a level of protection and safety as an actor because they always made you look good. They always made sure they got the best of it and then matched it with the best of someone else to make it really like be the best it could be. And that
Right.
was the reason for it.
Yeah.
But you know, you can get in your head a little bit. Okay, so we should dive into this episode, but before Lamorne, you wanna give us a little quick recap and breakdown?
Okay, so in this episode, Jess and Sam, played by David Walton, Dr. Sam himself, they have planned a perfect weekend getaway. Jess, however, is a bit hesitant about spending the weekend alone with Sam, so she invites Nick and Angie, played by the wonderful Olivia Munn. Now, meanwhile, back at the loft, this is when the episode gets a little bit interesting. Schmidt is afraid that Winston, who lives with 3 white folks, he's afraid that he ain't, his black experiences are, they're not enough, okay? He's not being his true self, so he decides to do a Winston day to turn on his black switch. I'm not sure if you can get away with this episode today. I'm not sure I would do this episode today. Well, actually, I might. It was still pretty funny. That is what happens.
In the moment, back in the day, did you bump up against it? Were you
Yeah.
like, I don't know about this?
I bumped up against a lot of stuff on this show. And, for the sake of comedy, the older I've gotten, the more I fell in love with comedy and the more I fell in love with people making fun of people, the more I can appreciate it. However, in moments like this particular episode, when I don't think we had black writers in the room at that point. So we may have had one. And so I was like, well, who the fuck is writing the storyline? But it's also to play into the fact that Schmidt is an idiot at times, and he means well, but he's one of those folks that goes about doing things in the dumbest of ways. And to highlight that, I appreciated it more. If we weren't highlighting the fact that Schmidt was an idiot, if it were just, or that Winston, it would be because obviously Winston is doing this to fuck with him. But if he weren't, if I would have read that script at the table read and Winston was not fucking with him, if he genuinely wanted to go and search for crack, I would have walked out of that room. I would have walked out of that room with a lot of money in my pocket. I would have sued. I would have.
Well, I think what was interesting too is like what I appreciated about it because I watched it and I was just like, oh God, when I was like, because certain times you watch things back, you're like, I don't know about this anymore. But the fact that Winston's character is like a hard no in the beginning, yeah, he fucks with him a little bit, but then he just stays a hard no even at the end, right? When Schmidt's like, chocolate vanilla swirl, he's like, no, and walks out. There's not a moment of like, I get it, I appreciate you. Like that really doesn't happen. It's just like, this is inappropriate. You're overcompensating for your white guilt. I have no space for it. Figure that out. Bye.
Yeah.
And it stays in that lane, I think is the only saving grace of the storyline.
Oh yeah. But I remember when that came out, I got a lot of pushback from black folks about it.
Sure.
There's a lot of names that you can get called when you're a part of an episode like this, especially for people who may have heard about it, didn't see it, didn't actually watch it, didn't see what the point of it was. Because Schmidt, as you know, Schmidt has a lot of Indian jokes. His character has a lot of Asian jokes. This man has a lot. He's just not. He ain't right up here all the time, and he's not necessarily in tune. And I think that device on him works. On that character works for sure. It's almost not Archie Bunker-ish from All in the Family, but it's kind of one of those things where you're watching the show and you go, I see what that character is, and try not to take offense necessarily.
And this is why it's so sad when shows get canceled so quickly, is to be like, give it a little time, because I think that the people who ran that show would be the first to acknowledge what you're saying now in retrospect. And then that's why all of a sudden, I feel like after season 1 or season 2, all of that kind of went away. And for the most part, I don't know, Lamorne, if you agree with that, but for the most part, a lot of that went away. And then I feel like they started to settle more into just the human experience of the people that they had that were of color. And so, but it was, there's some really awkward moments in those first few seasons where it just doesn't sit well. And it just was like easy pickings and low hanging fruit. I mean, and so
Yeah.
much of it is cultural. Like I didn't know this. Like I spent my whole life growing up outside of North America. And then I remember moving to Canada when I was 18, and someone was like, "Ooh, another brown girl at the school." And I feel like that's a North American thing, like the same as how like black and white and brown seem to be like the safe colors you can say out loud. Well, not anywhere else in the world. Like it's a full slur if you called someone brown. So I'd never
Yeah.
been called that before. And so I remember sitting down and Schmidt says like white Nick, brown Cece. And it just, you can see me sitting on the couch. Like I was rewatching it and I'm like, God, like the eye rolls and everything is just because I was not raised hearing that word in some sort of way where it's supposed to be like normalized. But I guess in North American culture it is. And it was really difficult to sit through for me, having someone call that to my face and realize, well, here it's not a big deal. But it felt
Especially
like
because
such a huge deal
I
in
call
my
you
body.
that. I call you that behind your back. So that's I know. It's, to your face, I understand.
All day long.
That's
how I'm in your phone.
It's in my phone.
All right, should we dive in,
Okay.
y'all? Let's dive right
dive
into
in.
this episode. I know we could
Let's-
sit here forever.
Yes, we can.
Let's get into
so-
it. Before we get right into the meat of this episode, though, do you remember how you were asked or when you were asked to be part of this New Girl universe? The call that came in, how it was pitched to you? Because you were on the newsroom, which was pretty hard hitting.
Yeah, I was on the newsroom and I got a call that that I got this offer to do 3 episodes on New Girl, and it was to play a stripper. And I love the New Girl, so I was really excited and really flattered by the offer. And I just said I needed to talk to Liz Meriwether before accepting, and because I just had one request. I said I would love to play this role. I would love to be on the show. I just don't want to play a stripper with a heart of gold. I don't want her going through med school. I don't want her like being like, I'm stripping to pay for my kids and my family. And like, I just want to really, I want to be a lawyer. And this is the only way to do it. I said, I want her to be a stripper who wants to be a stripper because she makes a ton of money doing it and she's good at it and she has no problem doing it. I thought there's a lot of women who do it because they're like, this is a good money maker and why not? And so Liz was like, okay. Yeah. She was
I
like,
know a lot of women that want to do it because they know I'm coming in there.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the character like beforehand? Like that wasn't the backstory of this character? They kind of then wove that into the Angie-ness of it all?
I don't know if it was the character. I think I came up really quick by saying, like, before you even think to even add that in, like, this is a deal breaker for me. I don't, because I've already seen that a million times. I've already seen her, I just didn't, I could imagine what it was. Like, there was like, oh, I'm the stripper. And then, Jake's character meets me and then we fall for each other. And he's like, she's this great girl who's just wants to become a dentist. And this is what she's doing to make it through. And I'd be like, I don't want to be a stripper. I don't, this is a hard life and I really want to get out of it. And I was like, I just felt like I've already seen that. And that's already been represented a million times. So let's show a stripper in a different way. And just show a woman who dances in gentlemen's clubs in a different way. I just was like, the whole thing was going to be more interesting to me. And Liz was like, did not blink an eye. She's like 100%. And so then
I feel like she's so good at writing those characters too, that are like smart and unapologetic.
Yeah.
For whoever they are. Right. And that's what feels refreshing.
Because you know what?
And all the weird comedy of it all.
Tell me somebody in life who really is apologetic. Most people are just fully themselves in real life. And I think that when a lot of times women are are written, we are written to be apologetic. Now, it doesn't mean that in real life, we're not always saying like, oh, sorry for this, sorry for that. But the truth is like most people just fully live in who they are. Like, even if they are an apologetic person, they are unapologetically apologetic. Do you know what I mean? Like, they are just fully, they're just fully living their life and their truth. And I'm sure there are a lot of women who want to strip to get through college or pay for their bills or whatever and don't really want to do it. But there are a lot of women who also want to do it because of all the reasons I said before. So she did a great job of writing that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's good
Okay, so
money. If you feel good doing
money.
it, that's great.
So I was going to ask, because I know it's called Cabin. We start this episode with them saying they want to go to this cabin. Were you on, because I wasn't there, obviously, was this a real cabin or were you guys on a stage?
No, real cabin out there.
Really? I thought they built it on a stage.
No,
Wow.
I remember being out in a real cabin because then we had to do this. We had to, we got to like shoot shotguns and stuff. So we were literally out there.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy
Get
shit.
out. I don't know why I
Yeah.
thought like, oh, you had like a location day for the exterior, but they built the
we
cabin.
were inside the cabin.
Oh, fun.
From
Oh,
what I
that's
remember,
fun.
guys, remember I told you earlier, I remember.
Cut to, this was at the Fox Lot. Jesus.
Cut to, yeah, exactly.
No, I'm
Like, girl, you were on stage 14 the whole time.
Okay, so we're going to go to a quick commercial break. And we are back, folks. We are back. We're here with Olivia Munn, recapping the episode Cabin. So, Hannah, go ahead. What were you going to ask?
Well, with the way we see you, Olivia, first in this episode is you come roaring up on a motorcycle and then quickly jimmy your way into like a secret closet and get these guns out. So my first thought when I rewatched the episode was, have you ever ridden a motorcycle before? How comfortable were you in that scene? Or did you just like, was there a stunt double and you just pulled the helmet off? And the guns. Because I personally, anytime I've had to use a gun in a show or a movie, it's the worst day ever and I dread it and I can't wait for it to be over.
Wow. Well, I have a motorcycle's license. And yes, so I got that years ago. However, for like insurance reasons, they don't let you ride your own motorcycle. So it was a stunt double and I take off the helmet at the end. But I felt comfortable because I know how to ride a motorcycle. And guns, I grew up in a military family. So we learned about gun safety early on. We would go to the gun range early on. It was just really important to not be afraid of guns so that if we were around them for whatever reason, we had a really healthy respect for them and understood how powerful they were. So there wasn't a fear, there was a big respect so that, there was no playing with guns in our family. It was like, this is what you do and this is how powerful it is. So, that did not freak me out. No.
It's one of the funniest moments I feel like when I watch the recap is Zoe needing the backstory before she can shoot something. And then you giving her the advice. And I feel like it's Nick that goes like, oh, this is the fantasy and a nightmare colliding. The girl you trust the least with the guns. And yet.
I think that was an improv. Like that was.
Was it really?
Like not improv, but that was the alt.
Oh, an alt
line.
line.
Alt line that it was great.
One of the famous alt lines.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I remember I kept one of the shell casings from that, or two.
Really?
Yeah, they're little red shell casings, and I was recently doing a big clean out. Well, the COVID clean out when you have nothing else to do, and I found them and I believe I had Jake and Zoe sign them, so they're somewhere.
Get out.
In a Tupperware somewhere.
That's a good auction, charity auction item later if you ever need to do something.
I'll find it and I'll give them to you guys.
Let's bring this back. What do you mean shell casings? You are shooting real guns?
They're
fuck?
They're like blanks. They're blanks. And so we're not shooting a real, but they're blanks. And so they have these and I think that they had shell casings scattered around for like props.
Like props.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like, wait,
Lamorne
what?
started to sweat for a second. There's
We got a gun issue. No, because I use for a lot of things I have to use guns for, but now it's nowadays they don't let you use real guns at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if they do, they take out the firing pin. You can't even shoot a blank if you wanted to.
What do you need to use guns for right now?
Just different. Fargo, the last show I did with a gun.
Right.
That one I was playing a police officer, and so I had shootouts on the show, but we were using these toy guns with like a light at the end, and then they would swap them out sometimes for close-ups with a real gun, but they would open it up and show you there's no firing pin, there's no bullet inside. It's been decommissioned essentially.
Yeah.
But back in the day, you would use real guns. They would have firing pins, obviously, so you can shoot blanks. But the problem with those is that sometimes a real bullet will find its way into one of these guns.
As we all know.
Which is obvious, as we all,
Tragically.
Um,
And also
sorry,
blanks
go
are
ahead,
scary because
Hannah.
that's how Brandon Lee passed away. He had a blank that was like right next to his head. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's why, honestly, The Crow was one of my absolute favorite movies.
Mhm.
And then I learned of that accident that happened on set, and I just think it just put like a fear and a chill into my body that I just like never shook.
Yeah.
And I never really had to handle one in my personal life or family life or anything. And then I did a movie, and they were like, "Okay, so to get ready for this scene, we're sending all you guys to like the gun range today."
Mm.
And it's
You never had to
loud
use
in
a
there,
gun?
and it's
Even when you dated
When?
Kanye?
Did you date?
Have
This
to-
is a rumor that Lamorne
numbers
is
and shit.
really don't say it.
Wait,
People think that
you
there's
like-
truth that could happen.
It's not true. You didn't date Kanye?
It's the craziest rumor. Lamorne tries to start really fun rumors about my life because my life is so so boring. And I love that my life is boring. I love that there's nothing exciting that happens in it. It is a very conscious choice, and so Lamorne likes to plant seeds of things that he thinks that will just like take off and make my life seem like it's more interesting.
I like how you said
Anyone who
he
knows,
said the Kanye, like the way they do in the documentary. And then Kanye, you remember that? He's like the guy who did the
Kanye.
voiceover for the in Kanye.
Oh, for his genius documentary.
Yeah.
I once
Great
made a
documentary,
joke when I first started New Girl, and I met with somebody, and I was like, "Oh, so sorry, but I bumped into Lenny Kravitz, and he like asked me on a date, and so we're gonna do that later." Like in my mind, that was such an obvious, ridiculous joke. You know what I mean? Like I saw Santa Claus, and he was interested. Like that's what I thought. And then it kind of like got back to me through my like agent at the time to be like, "Whoa, so like you were going on a date with Lenny Kravitz?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "That to me is so preposterous and insane."
That would have never
I
seemed
started-
preposterous to me.
This is what I later
I
learned,
know.
that things that I think are crazy to me in my life, everybody's like, "No, that could totally happen." I don't understand what this feels insane, Hannah.
What's
This could be
preposterous
totally
is
normal.
that I start rumors that I am dating Zoe Kravitz. And
This is
no one believes that.
you've been trying to make that happen just by like trying to manifest by saying
Yeah.
insane things about you and Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah,
Not
no one
insane.
will ever
I can
believe
see it
that though.
happening.
People don't even believe it.
Okay, Absinthe. I want to ask about the Absinthe thing because it's one of the funniest things too in this episode. Have you ever tried it? Have you ever done it? Have you ever been around it?
I went to Sweden before and I got a bottle of absinthe and I thought that it was I was a very I'm one of 5 kids. We grew up in a military family. We weren't like goody two shoes at all. In fact, my older siblings were like they're all smart, got straight A's, all great, but they were like definitely not, they weren't bad kids, but like I didn't cause any trouble. And I was like, there was a lot of stuff I didn't know about. I didn't know a lot of sexual stuff. I didn't know a lot of drugs. I didn't know any, like, I just kind of grew up like really not, but my brain didn't like go there. I really,
Where are you in the birth order of the 5?
I'm second to the last. I'm 4.
Got it.
And I just wasn't into any of that stuff. And like, you know, and then, and I, even socially, like I would joke or fight back with people the way that I would with like my siblings. So like when I first got on television, I was 26 when there was no Twitter, by the way, and there was like forums. And so I'd be like, I would talk back the way I did with my siblings. And then I had to learn very quickly, like, oh, like that doesn't fly when you're like in a public position at all. But that's just like my brain was like, only like I kind of operated like as like the fourth child in like even into an adult in a way that like I didn't care to learn the things I didn't know. I was just kind of, and Absinthe. I know this is like a circuitous way to get back to Absinthe, but like in my head, I'd probably seen some movie or something where it was like the devil's juice, and you're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
And so I remember being like, they sell Absinthe here. And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, and I like thought it was so cool. I'm going to get 2 bottles. And I put it in my suitcase and brought it back. Come to find out, you can get it in America. Like it wasn't
Sure.
crazy. But I remember drinking it being like, okay, here we go. And it was,
Time to see the moon.
I think. And then the New Girl episode was nothing like my actual experience with Absinthe. Have you guys had Absinthe before?
Lamorne?
Not in the way that it's supposed to be prepared. I'm similar to you. I didn't have my first drink until I was 22, so I didn't know anything really. Yeah. And I would see movies where people would drink absinthe and then hallucinate, and I said, "Oh, I want to try that." And then I tried absinthe, and I didn't hallucinate.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, "This don't even taste that great. What am I doing?" And then someone was like, "Oh, you gotta have like sugar, and you gotta heat it up, and you gotta do it." I was like, "What the fuck? No,
Like
I'm just
cook
going."
it?
Like you turn into a
It's like
witch,
cooking
and you're like, I got some brew.
Yes.
Get a cauldron.
Yes. That's
First
essentially
thing
what
for your
people were
absinthe.
telling me. And I was not, so I've never, after that, I never tried it. But you're right, you see it everywhere, and you just kind of go, well, that was a joke. That was a big myth.
I remember I was same thing. Also didn't drink till like in my early 20s. And was trying to always make good choices. And I met this guy, and I think he realized this is not, like we're getting along, but nothing is going to happen. We're not like leaving this bar together. And so he was like, I think he had watched these movies about absinthe. He's like, let's do a shot of absinthe. And I was like, all right. And I think in his mind, this terrible dude, he was like, he thought it would be like a roofie, like I'd hallucinate, and now he could like change the nature of who I am, and then this night could go in a different direction. And I like, did the shot of absinthe, and no, still a hard no for me, bud. But thanks for the shot, and bye-bye. And I
thought
remember like
absinthe
walking
made the
out of the
heart go
bar, and I was
fonder.
like, so I'm gonna catch the bus home, and and he was just sort of like,
It's not working.
do you want to go back and do like another shot? And I was just like, oh, I think I'm good. I was like,
He
thanks.
goes, wait. He's like, I've got some sugar, some hot water, a cauldron.
He's like, I got a cauldron. Wait a minute. It was the funniest moment where I was just like, oh, you just trying to like roofie me, and it's just like not working. And I'm like, now I'm feeling like sorry for you. I'm like, your Machiavellian
don't know how
plans
to
are just falling
roofie.
apart.
Aw.
He was like, I think I'm gonna try this, and I was just like, you're a terrible human being.
Yeah.
So it was kind of
Let's
funny
jump-
to
let's
watch
jump
this
back
guy
in.
try to be evil.
Let's jump back into this one. Now, Nick is forced to be here, right? He's
Well, he comes
just
because
as-
it's free. That's the thing. He comes because it's a free trip, and she's manipulated him a little.
yeah, but but in the beginning, she's like asking him to be there.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but we
Yeah.
do see him in his truest state. He's having a lot of fun with Angie. And but deep down at his core, he is becoming someone who he doesn't really want to be, which I think is an interesting trait for someone like Nick, because he's very adamant about being himself on the show. He's, like we talked about, being unapologetic. He's unapologetically a bum and is a lazy person. But with Angie, he feels like, oh, I have to pretend to be cool. I have to pretend to be down with this idea of having like a swingers party, for example, because that's ultimately what ends up happening. Angie assumes that this is a swingers situation.
Which, by the way, like kind of a fair assumption. If you're in an open relationship, you're invited to a cabin with a couple other people. You're doing
Yeah.
and then he's like, I'm going upstairs
Wait,
with this one now.
Hannah, I love how
Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
that that's a normal assumption.
It's a fair assumption. But if you're in an open relationship and then the other, your
we're gonna
guy,
fuck each other.
look.
Hannah, is that why you be going camping all the time?
You must have been sheltered like Lamorne and I too. She's
I'm like, isn't that what happens? I guess that's what would happen.
that's
I
why
don't
she's
know.
never gone camping. She's so afraid.
That's
I
right.
know.
That's true. Actually, I will not camp. I'm just like, it gets
Yeah.
weird out there. You're alone in the woods. There's bears. I don't know. No, thank
By the
you.
way,
Time
camping
to
is
stop.
not fun. I used to do it as a kid. It's not a cute thing to do. It's not fun.
No,
Yeah,
it doesn't
I've
seem
never-
like that. You can't sell it to me.
No,
It's not
Yeah.
interesting to me whatsoever. I'll go for like a walk in the woods, but I'm not gonna like
Even
sleep there.
then,
No,
have
thank
you just walked in the woods? Come on. Not fun.
Why?
Now, another thing going on in this episode,
Mm.
which let's switch to the B story a little bit, and then we'll come back to the cabin. Schmidt is up to his old ways again. Schmidt is he sees Winston having a conversation with some people who happen to be black folks. And he's like, "Oh man, your face lit up. You seemed to be electric, and you seem to be
Like
your true
Pixar
self."
Winston.
Pixar. Oh my God, And so let's talk about that a little bit. I know we dove into it a little bit at the beginning of the show, but let's talk about this in particular. How fucked up was this? How fucked up was this moment?
Here's my question for you, Lamorne, because knowing you well,
Mm-hmm.
when after you guys come back from the bar and you're in Winston's room and Max has to walk over to you and put that Rasta hat on
Mhm.
your head.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt like that's when you were no longer in character. I felt like I could see in your face. You were like, we're at the line and now we're going over the line.
Yeah, they were some habitual line steppers on this show,
Right.
and that was one of them. That was one of the lines, because we're gonna go to a commercial break, and when we come back, we're gonna see if you found the damn bear.
right.
Olivia, there's something we do on this show where Hannah seems to have this. There's this theory floating
I
around
don't.
that in
No,
every
let's
episode
be
there is a
clear so
bear.
Olivia understands. This is not a
Negro,
me
this is
thing,
you.
okay? No, this is not a me thing, okay? So there is a huge fan theory that there is a bear reference picture mentioned in every single episode of New Girl, right? And from what I have seen, that is true.
A bear?
Lamorne
You've
things,
seen a bear in every episode?
or it's said,
Bear.
there's some reference of bear.
Lamorne, have you seen this?
Some-
Do you witness this as well?
He's
No,
decided
I mean,
not to get
it's in a
himself
few
involved.
episodes. It's in
Okay.
a few, but let me tell
And
you
so
how much
I've
of a
taken it
stretch
on as
this
my
is.
mission with the
Because-
fans that watch the show, and they send me in proof that this happens. So you know what? Go to your commercial break, come back, and I will tell you all about
Yeah.
212 Cabin and the bear situation. Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna go to break, damn it. And
Mhm.
we are back from break. Hannah,
Yeah.
you go ahead and disappoint the fans one more time.
Where's the bear?
Let them down.
Where's the bear? First
Yeah,
of all,
where's this damn bear?
in the opening act of the episode, when Jess is selling it to Nick of why he should go to the cabin, she says you can sleep on a bear rug. Ba-ba. Bow. Thank you so much.
Did you guys ever ask Liz about this? Did you ask her like,
We did.
and she said no?
She had no idea. She had no idea.
She said, maybe. She didn't know.
What if
I took that as a yes.
You have to see which writer has been on the show from the entire time, and then you go into their house and it's just bears. Some writer that's been like, I'm gonna do this on the New Girl.
I like these weird Easter eggs. So yes, there's a definite bear spoken by Zooey Deschanel herself right at the top of the episode. Boy, bye.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I know
so
it
we're
hurts you
jumping
when I
back
find
in.
it. That's the best thing because he just then usually goes on a tirade
Is-
about how ridiculous. Like when I watch the episode, I'm always watching for the bear, and he's just like, "You have lost your
I
mind."
think that he loves to hate
Olivia-
it.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
He loves-
That's exactly true. So he gets so sad because then he's like, "Well, I have nothing to talk about now that you found it."
You don't got to dig too deep. I do love to hate it. And here's why. Because let me tell you how it started. It started as there is a bear image. It started as a
On the
bear image.
fridge.
And let me tell you how desperate she got. Now it's a reference of a bear. She even got so desperate that Brett Baer, one of our creators of the show, she's and producers of the show and
I
writers
did
of the
not
show,
name that
she
man.
goes,
That's his
Brett
name.
Baer. It's not even spelled the way Bear is. It's like a man could walk out of a room. Nick could walk out of a room with his shirt off, and she's gonna go, "Oh, bare chested. Look at that." I'm like, this is a stretch.
Oh, you do that?
Sometimes.
You have to
Look,
decide
there's
what
150
bear it is.
episodes. They make some mistakes, okay? Like they can't hit it every single time, but I still say if it's like an 80% thing,
Okay.
there is some method to the
But-
madness of that in 150
Wait,
episodes.
The question is this though: do you think they are Easter eggs, or do you think it's an accidental, like from God? He's like putting this in.
But how can it be accidental? I think that it's intentional
okay, so then
because if 100 of them have a weird bear reference every single time,
You're right.
it's so strange.
You're right. It would have to be purposeful. But if it was, it wouldn't be Bear as in a last name, and it wouldn't be Behr, and it wouldn't be bare chested. It would be Bear every single time if it was deliberate.
But these are comedians. Sometimes it's bare feet. Sometimes they have to be
You're so
creative.
good.
Listen, okay, we're not dividing into camps here, okay?
It's
this is
very
like
divided. I am on Team Lauren. I'm sorry, Hannah.
I just
Thank
need
you.
something to look
No,
for.
let's-
It helps me keep my attention.
Teams have been
Now
divided.
let's dive back in a little bit. So what's happening back at the loft right now? At the loft right now, Nick has now. Everyone's stressed out due to the fact that there was a misconception about this this swinger thing, right?
Yeah.
And what's happening. So Nick, feeling a little bit uncomfortable, chugs. He
Mhm.
chugs the
The truth
absinthe,
serum.
the truth serum.
He tells all the
And then
truths.
Right. And then he comes out there and he's like, listen, I got a problem with this. I don't like this at all. I don't want to be, I like you. I don't want to be in this open situation. Have you ever been in a situation like this where you thought everything was all good in a relationship and finally the guy came out and said, you know what? I don't actually. I don't think it's cool that you wear glasses. Be blind. I don't like the fact that you I don't like
But I think
this.
it's
don't
a
like
thing
this
of like,
guy
have you ever
from
been
here."
on a situation where in two different pages, you're right? I think that's the thing. And you're trying to be cool with their page, but you're really not.
Yeah. I could tell you it happens in every relationship. That's why I'm single. Um,
By the way, Olivia, you know
was
somebody
just
for
thinking, I was
Lamorne?
like, oh my
This is
God,
the low-key
thank
dating
you.
show for Lamorne. He needs someone. You know
You're
somebody?
so nice, smart, handsome. It's kind of crazy. When was your last relationship, and what are your issues?
oof. I mean, my issues
Mm.
are the issue. I'm busy. I'm busy. I have a child that comes numero uno in my life, so a lot of times I don't have the bandwidth to give out so much attention. And I co-parent, so my daughter is with her mom one week, she's with me one week, so I need to make up for that time when I have her. And so a lot of times I'll be dating someone and they don't necessarily they say they're okay with it, but their actions are telling me they are not okay with it. And so I moonwalk my black ass on up out of there. And
What are you looking for? I'm going through my Rolodex in my brain.
what am I looking for? Busy, someone who is busy.
Mhm.
Someone who's got their own situation happening, and if and we can complement each other and go and have fun, and then understand that we are both doing something else, and then come back. I'm looking for someone who's funny. You got to be funny. You don't have to be a comedian, but you got to be able to take a joke, because I don't know how to stop telling them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. She gotta be thick. No, I'm kidding. You gotta have them cakes. She gotta like weird stuff.
Okay.
No, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm easy.
I think it's
Zoe
the
Kravitz.
understanding that you have a daughter and that she comes
Mhm.
first.
Right.
And someone who
Right.
actually understands that and is cool with that. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the hunt.
Because eventually it
Keep your
turns
eyes
into a group
open.
thing. Eventually it will turn into a group thing. So she will get that attention, but I need to be comfortable first.
Yeah,
you know,
before.
in my
the merger.
situation.
Right.
Yeah.
This is like when this is
So-
my third episode, and then I'm out after this. This was my
Yeah, because you leave him at the end.
because I think it was clear that he's in love with Zoe's character.
Yeah. Which I found interesting when she
Mm.
got sick and she went upstairs. He's like, I gotta go up there and handle
Yeah.
this. And I was like, do you, bruh? No, you don't.
Well, that's what your character is. What Angie says. She's like, you're going up there
Yeah.
with her.
It's like, oh,
Okay.
that's what this is.
And it's what is I did. It was obviously for my character, bummer, but as a fan of the show, I was like, go upstairs. I've been a fan of the show from the beginning. I remember all of your advertisements from the very beginning, and it was like, oh, what's this is back when it was like there's 4-5 networks, right, that people really watched.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a show came on, you're like, everyone knew about that show. It's a very exciting time.
Right.
I know it had to be, as an actor, I knew it had to be for you guys, because you're like, because you get these and they're like lottery tickets. You're like, oh my God.
Mhm.
And then I remember so I watched it from the genesis. So when I'm playing the character who's dating Nick, I'm going like, Nick, that's right, she's right there. I'm like, you're in love with her. Like, I was definitely like I was really happy to be part of, as a fan, and also as an actor, I was happy to be part of an arc that allowed, or I was happy to be part of an arc that was the window that led to another place in their relationship. It helped the show progressed from that moment. It had to make a left turn at some point, and that was that moment where you're like, oh, he's with somebody and he's choosing her over the present situation, and you're like, and he's clocking that, she's clocking it, and it was a nice, it felt good for me to send him off onto his next journey.
I will say too, when I rewatched it, you get to see Angie be totally wild and herself, but that moment when they're having that heart to heart on the bed together, Nick and Angie, and you go like, wow, this is like a really emotionally honest conversation. This is really sweet. And then he starts screaming bird and hits the deck. And she, with like zero judgment, just stands up and looks around and takes the picture of the bird off the wall. It was one of like the most sweet, loving things, like a best friend who has no judgment, to be like, oh, you're still in it.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay. Don't worry. The big bad bird's out of here. I thought that was like it was one of those moments where I found like, I forgot, but this was like the last episode. And then you're just like, peace, bye, I'm out of here. That you go like, oh, they are a good match. Because he's a real weirdo.
Yeah.
And has that. And there was no judgment, full safe space.
Yeah.
We'll get the big scary bird out. And I thought that was really sweet. And you go like, oh, but there could be something.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more, and then gone.
Well, I think that, and what I love, that's what the great thing about the show is, like, that I think the show always showed the complexities of life, and how, a lot of times you could truly be happy with a lot of different people, and you could truly be miserable with a lot of different people, and you just have to, the biggest thing in life that I have learned is you got to make a decision, and you got to make a decision. And what you hope is that by the time you're in a place where you realize that you just make a decision and move forward, that you're really in a healthy place, that you've learned a lot of your lessons, so that you're able to pick the best decision for yourself. But in that moment, it's like the sliding doors, left, right, which way you go. And I think that was the beautiful thing about the show, is that there's always those layers to life, and you're trying to juggle them all at the same time, and all of the feelings. And there's like regret and love and passion and sadness, and it's all of it at once. Liz was a great job of creating that show.
Yeah. That's funny. The best piece of advice like my dad ever gave. Oh, sorry, Lamorne. And then we will on that note it, I promise. But I remember asking him, and I was like, should I do this? Should I do that? I go to my dad for a lot of things. And he was like, the only wrong decision is no decision. Make a decision. That's the right decision. But then fully commit to it.
Yeah.
And that has always stuck with me. When you're kind of sitting in that limbo, this is why it feels wrong.
Yeah.
Is because you need to sit there and you can't keep one foot in that other lane, which is what you're sharing too.
Every time I would go to my dad, I would hear doo doo doo, the number you have reached, and then I'd be like, oh shit, I'm sorry.
Aw.
So on that note,
Aw.
feel sorry for me. On that note, I want to play a little game with you. Hannah, let's mess around a little bit. Can we do that with
Okay.
Olivia?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're go to commercial break, and then when we come back, we're going to do that. Boom, we're back from commercial break. Olivia, a few questions for you. All right. If you were trapped in a cabin in the woods with 3 other people with no heat and electricity, which 3 people that you know would give you the best chance to survive? You don't have to name names if you don't want to, but please share.
I'm in a okay. I'm in a cabin. No chance of
No heat,
heat.
no
There's
electricity.
Yeah, no electricity. Okay.
Mhm.
It would be, first of all, my younger brother, Johnny, who just got his PhD in physics. This guy is brilliant. We're going
That's a
to
good one.
figure out a way to be warm. He's going to figure out whatever it is, he's the guy. It'll be my boyfriend, John, who makes me laugh so much. And I think that I'll laugh so much that it'll keep me warm. I'll just be like constantly crunching over. And
So John and Johnny.
John and Johnny. And it's a great. And I would say my mom, because my mom grew up in Vietnam, and she really, I think that, she grew up in a world where she's really resourceful. She can figure anything out. Everything she can figure out. So those would be the 3.
Okay. Yeah, me, my mom would be one of those people. My mom, and then I would just find 2 Navy SEALs that I know.
That's a good.
You're like, I would get an electrician.
I get an electrician.
Help me. Yes.
Electrician. I get someone with a lot of firewood and a match.
Yeah.
Yep.
And my mom, just to hang out while we watch these people work and get this shit together. I can't.
I mean,
Get 2
Okay.
Navy SEALs.
Let's see. I got another one here for you.
I love it.
You had a lot of scenes with Jake Johnson, who was known for being quite a serious and dramatic actor. How were filming those scenes with him? And, what did you do to stay in those scenes? Because he does a lot of bits. He improvises. I am convinced he cannot read. So,
Jake and
what
I
did you do
got
to stay
along.
alive in those scenes?
Jake and I got along so incredibly well. We just one of the. I'm sure people say this all the time with him, but it was like instant friends, and it was just really easy to. I mean, I'm very bad at breaking. If you make me laugh, I will laugh so hard, and then it's impossible to make me stop. Like when you break laughing, and then it makes the crew laugh, and then you try to go again, and then you break laughing, and then the crew's laughing because it's funny, and then eventually the crew gets mad at you because it's been going on for 5 takes. That's when I think it's the funniest, because I start thinking, oh my God, they're so mad at me, and I won't stop, and then I keep going for like 5 more takes. So so that was like my life with Jake, was just me constantly being like, everyone's gonna be so mad at me. This is so hard to stay focused.
There's a reaction shot of you when he's sitting at the dinner table completely high, losing his mind. And he's like, if you were a top hat, you'd be a big top hat, but like the Monopoly. He's going on and on and on. There's a teacher, he had a weird smell, so think about it. That thing. And they cut to you. And I think the way they used it in the edit is just like, Angie loves it. Loves a fucked up Nick. This is great.
Yeah.
But I feel like I know you a little bit enough where I was like, I think Olivia is just like laughing and loving
I love it.
Jake going fully committed to being as drunk and weird as humanly possible. Yeah. It just was like the sweetest look on your face of like, this man is just going. And I just get to sit here and watch, which was really fun.
I remember that moment, and I remember just watching. I was like, I remember thinking, like, a lot of that stuff wasn't in alt packs. It wasn't an alt line. I was just like, somebody wound up this guy and we're like, go. And he just like, it's so funny. He's so funny. He really thinks of, in his delivery and his voice.
Yeah.
It's so funny because what he's saying is always very clever and heightened intelligence and like in the best comedic way. but the way it comes out is so gravelly and bumbly, and like it's just that it's so it's like that beautiful mix of just like it just catches you off guard because you're like he's just the best. He's the best.
There was, I feel like they always release those like top 5 list of actors who play like drunk the best, and Jake is always on them. He's always on
It is
them,
hard,
and
to
it's
play
very
drunk.
true.
It's hard to play drunk.
It is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's always on them. He somehow that's his wheelhouse.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. We got one more question for you. Your character Angie was a motorcycle riding, gun shooting badass. Are those characters more fun to play than others? Also, what type of prep? I know you have a military background, but what type of prep do you go into when playing?
You've done a lot of
characters like
action
that?
stuff actually in your
Yeah.
Done
career.
a lot of action.
Yeah.
I I did grow up in a military family, and also being Asian, it was non-negotiable. We had to do martial arts growing up. So since like 3 years old, I was in martial arts. So got a black belt in Taekwondo, and like that's what we had to do. It like
What?
Yeah, but there's something like I will tell. The answer is to play a character. It's not as much fun as like it was a really fun time in the New Girl, but I liked like my character on the Newsroom probably the best. To play wild, crazy, like it's fun, but sometimes it can be kind of like like that's kind of what they always default to when you're working. Like so when you don't really get as many levels, and so they're not gonna unless you're
Right.
doing a film where this person's like you get to see her whole like arc and stuff and her down moments and things like that. But it's usually the person who comes in and is just like wild and like what you see with Angie. We have moments, thankfully, there were some beautiful like quieter moments. But yeah, I prefer the other, whatever the other is. Yeah. Do you guys like playing that kind?
Yep.
Like of like party people, wild, extremes?
I don't do it so much. Action stuff I love. I love playing. I love that. I love doing that because it's more, a lot of times you could have full days, even weeks of zero dialogue. You're just kind of doing a bunch of cool shit, which I enjoy. It kind of gives me a break a little bit. I remember the last action-y thing I did, Fargo. There's a big shootout scene, and a lot of that took us 6 days to shoot this one scene, and for about 2 or 3 of those days, I didn't say anything. It's just me and Juno Temple like roaming around, doing this cool stuff. These gunshots are going off, and I thought, man, this is great. So then you have your moment, your few days of just a 2-person scene. So it's a mixture of both, and they figure out a way to blend it together. And anything else that I've done action related, it's very similar to that. So I actually enjoy doing those a lot because you get to do both in those moments. So yeah, but being silly is still my favorite thing to do. I mean,
Yeah, I know, me too. If I have to choose it every time, I'll be like, just put me across the table from somebody else and let us talk and get weird. I just did a show with Gina Rodriguez, not dead yet, and Lauren Ash. And when they would put the 3 of us women in a room and just let us be really, really weird and improv and like, I don't know, sing weird stuff at each other and you're laughing all day, I will take that over having to run anywhere. I don't like any of those days. They're like, so it's like a physical day. I'm like, oh God. Let me just sit with funny women and laugh. Those are my dream days.
we truly do appreciate it. Hannah, anything you wanna add?
No, I just really appreciate you coming on. It's amazing. Like you're saying, people, they fall in love with the characters on this show and everybody that's in that New Girl universe, and you are definitely one of them. And so you being on here for us and for all the people that listen and love the show and are still newly discovering it, it's awesome. So thank you for making the time. We appreciate you.
Guys, I was so excited to hear you guys were doing a podcast about the show. It's iconic, and I'm so happy that all the fans are getting to hear it from your perspective. It's so cool.
Awesome.
Love
Thanks,
you guys.
Mel.
Awesome.
I'm going to find you a girl.
I love you. Much love.
Much love.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to find you a girl,
Please do.
Lamorne. I'm just going to find you a bear.
I'm straight with
I'm
my
going to find
boring
you a
life.
bear.
Yeah.
I'm going to find you a girl.
Yeah.
And we'll talk later.
I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications for this podcast. Also, if you like my shirt here of the Mess Around, a classic, You like Lamorne's hat there. We are going to launch this merch on July 9th when this next episode drops, which is a Tuesday. But for the super fans, if you are listening, go to our website right now, like messaroundpod.com, sign up for the newsletter, and we will send you an early access code. And you will be able to get your hands on this merch first before it sells out. Because once it sells out, it's gone, baby. It's gone.
Mm-hmm. And I got a couple of these hats already, so I don't need to go to the site.
No, we're already
will
shopping the
anyway.
site. We're terrible.
That was The Mess Around. This has been an iHeartMedia production. Our executive producer is Joelle Monique. Our engineer and editor is Mia Taylor. Additional production from Daniel Goodman, Wendy Heisler, and Kyle Chevron. Our theme song was written and composed by Ronald Jukebox Jackson. So we're going to catch you next time. Bye.